bring this meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board to order. Is there a motion to convene closed session?
Madam Chair, I certify to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were identified in the motion convened the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Cook?
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel. Aye. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Ownby.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item 3.1. This is a Pledge of Allegiance. And I believe we have Ms. Stella Richardson, a fifth grader from Claire Bird Baker, who's going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stella.
Aren't you amazed how confident those fifth graders come to the microphone?
Ms. Surza, would you please take the roll?
Dr. Beers.
Here.
Ms. Cook. Here. Ms. Hummel. Here. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Taylor. Here. Mrs. Young.
Here.
Ms. Ownby.
Here. Item 3.3, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to do so?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Surza?
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel. Aye. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Ownby.
Aye. Item 4.1, announcements and superintendent's report. Dr. Herron.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My report this evening begins with congratulations to 7 students who participated in New Horizons Advanced Technical Careers Academy signing day on May 14th. These career-ready seniors have accepted full-time positions right out of high school in manufacturing trades, constructions, and automotive work. 4 of the students are from Lafayette High School. John McKenzie is completing the Building Construction 3 program and has accepted a job at Newport News Shipbuilding. Sean Hall is part of the Electricity and Renewable Energy program. After graduation, he will work at Walsh Electric. Mauricio Martinez will also be working at Walsh Electric. He is successfully completing the Auto Collision and Refinishing program at New Horizons. And finally, from Lafayette, Terry Johnson will join the team at Luxterra after completion of the Auto Technology 2 program. From Warhill High School, Jacob Waltner has accepted a position at Walsh Electric. Jacob participated in the Electricity and Renewable Energy program at New Horizons. From Jamestown High School, Christopher Kurtz is on his way to full-time employment at Luxterra. He is also completing the Electricity and Renewable Energy program at New Horizons. And finally, Joe Parks will join Newport News Shipbuilding following completion of the Building Construction program at New Horizons. I know you join me in congratulating these outstanding students who are on their path to success in the workplace. We could not be more proud of their accomplishments. As you know, academic achievement and college and career readiness are at the heart of one of our strategic planned goals. This is just one example of multiple pathways available to students in WJCC schools. Congratulations also go out tonight to a group of Toano Middle School students. They recently earned 2nd place in the Global Virtual Classroom Contest, sponsored by the Give Something Back International Foundation. Toano students took part in an online collaborative project with peers from around the world to develop a website on a topic of their choosing. The students at Toano teamed up with students at schools in Taiwan and Gulfport, Mississippi to create the Ocean Protection Starts With You and Me website. The site won 2nd place in the primary school category. The competition, including participating schools, The competition included participating schools from here in the United States, along with students in Afghanistan, India, Canada, Russia, and Turkey. The websites were judged by an international panel who looked at the accuracy of content, presentation, evidence of collaboration, and a focus on helping through personal, social, or environmental responsibility. Congratulations to the Toano students who worked on this project during lunch, after school, during AEP, and at home. And our thanks and congratulations also go out to the teacher, Kate Schall, for her leadership of these outstanding students. Without question, our teachers are making a tremendous difference in the lives of WJC students. Inside and outside of the classroom, they are teaching our young people important lessons that go well beyond academics. They are role models for lessons in empathy, resilience, courage, and caring for one another. During Teacher Appreciation Week, students in the American Sign Language class at Lafayette High School created special videos and tokens of appreciation for teachers who have made a difference in their lives. Each student made a video in which they signed a message about a memorable moment. We're going to watch a video in just a moment so that you can see how they are using their signing skills in a real-world environment. The teachers were presented with a copy of the video, which is also closed captioned during surprise classroom visits last week. Let's take a look at the video. I think you get the idea of what Many thanks to American Sign Language teacher Jennifer Swinson and Erin Pratt, the ITRT at Lafayette, who collaborated with students to create this incredibly unique learning experience. It is certainly one that both teachers and students will remember for years to come. Madam Chair, that completes my announcements for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Herron. I know there are a few school board members who have an update. Ms. Cook?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all may recall from my last report on the liaison committee that at the last meeting, that group decided to explore the idea of jointly working together to advocate at the General Assembly level. And as a follow-up, I wanted to report that the city and county have decided to take the lead on that effort, and we'll be in touch with Ms. Ownby and Dr. Herron to seek school board participation in that effort, and it's my hope that we will participate fully and actively.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Ms. Taylor?
Yes, I attended the most recent SEAC meeting on May 9th, and it was the last meeting for the 2018-2019 school year, but the committee will be here to present their annual report to us at our next meeting. So we're looking forward to that. And don't forget to put on your calendars, June 6th, the exceptional games at Jamestown High School. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor, are there additional board comments? And I did fill in for Ms. Young at Career Ready Advisory Committee a couple weeks ago, where the committee presented their draft report to that committee, and they sought recommendations from the committee on information and items that they felt needed to be in there for their presentation to us. Some of the items that were recommended were a dedicated CTE coordinator, additional career coaches within the school division, and there were around 16 other items. Cool things that occurred during the CTE meeting was that students presented on three War Hill students presented on their NASA Hunch project and their capstone project, and I know we spotlighted that several weeks ago, but just wanted to share again with the public. So War Hill students had an opportunity to work with NASA and the space station, and our students, our WJCC students, developed a prototype for a
Tool bag.
Yeah, okay, a tool bag that holds tools in with Velcro in little snaps and pockets so it doesn't float around in space. And they were among, I don't know, hundreds, whittled down to like the top 5. And of course, NASA, retains the rights to this, but this might actually end up on the space station. I was just awed and amazed with all the, not just in the modules and the creativity of our students. Then likewise, another student worked on a capstone project for his senior project, and he created a sign-in, sign-out check-in process, working with View to help teachers with students coming into the building late to kind of speed up that process. So using radioactivity ID, they can like sign in and sign out, and it's a prototype that many teachers are using at War Hill. It's something that maybe the entire division will use. I don't know, but a War Hill student created this, and I was just awed and amazed at his creativity and the computer programming and the radio frequency ID and the scanner and the badge, and so we have some really cool inventors in WJCC. So with that, we're moving on to recognitions, student and staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we recognize WJCC performing arts students and a number of our valued partners and volunteers. We begin with Lafayette High School student John O'Neill. John competed at the Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA, State Conference and placed in the categories of securities and investments. His placement advanced him to the FBLA National Leadership Conference in San Antonio, Texas. John is joining us right now to be recognized at the front of the room. John, congratulations, and we wish you all the best as you represent Lafayette and the division in the national competition. Students from Clara Bird Baker and Matthew Whaley's music departments were honored to perform in the All Virginia Elementary Chorus. This outstanding opportunity allows students across the state of Virginia to work with a master conductor, perform a varied repertoire of quality choral literature, and increase their knowledge of vocal skills. 7 Clara Bird Baker and 4 Matthew Whaley choir students were selected to participate in this statewide event. Students, please come to the front as your name is called and remain for a group photograph with your teachers. From Clara Bird Baker, Maya Blackhurst. Isaac Gwynn. Lalani Jemison. Alice Kaiser. Sasha Ryan Polk. Chloe Pinkham. Stella Richardson. And from Matthew Whaley, Taylor Ann Mason. Aubrey Picota. Gracie Alexa. Mackenzie Pesante.
Yep, thank you, Jordan. And he's in.
Outstanding work by both music departments and a great example of why WJCC Schools was recognized for Best Community for Music Education. WJC Schools is fortunate to have local business partners with us to help us elevate the learning in our classrooms. Tonight we recognize 3 partners who are named to the 2019 Virginia School Boards Association Business Honor Roll. The ongoing and commitment and support of these businesses give to help our students and schools be successful is very much appreciated. As your business is called, I would ask representatives here to join us up front and remain up front until each business has been called. First, Anheuser-Busch, represented by Gary Dronan. Partnered with Anheuser-Busch Inclusive, created opportunity for students to broaden academic experiences and learn firsthand the technical skills needed in the workplace. Anheuser-Busch opens their doors to us annually for Manufacturing Day for student tours that help students make strong connections between what they are learning and the 21st century skills needed in jobs today. Thank you so much. Secondly, Chick-fil-A, represented by Ren Holland. If you've ever been to a Spirit Night at Chick-fil-A Moortown, most likely it was in support of one of our 16 schools. The team has made generous contributions for school-based initiatives, and we are so excited to learn that the organization spearheaded a school supply drive to ensure all students in WJC schools have what they need and are prepared to learn. Thank you very much indeed. Our third business partner tonight is Movement Mortgage, and representing the company is Keith Freeland. As an expert in securing funds to purchase a home, Keith Freeland from Movement Mortgage works with students in economics and personal finance courses to understand the relationship between home ownership and the local economy. He is also a member of the trio of businesses who hosts the Honor Thy Educator 11th Commandment luncheons. As a sponsor of a teacher, it is important for Mr. Freeland to serve teachers, or as a spouse of a teacher, it is important for Mr. Freeland to serve teachers to give them a special moment away from the classroom. Thank you very much indeed. welcome all of these opportunities to engage the community in the learning process and depend on partnerships like these to enhance experiences for our students. We're pleased to highlight these contributions tonight and say thank you again to the businesses involved. Through the Outstanding Volunteer of the Year program, the division highlights one dedicated volunteer from each of our schools. These volunteers spend countless hours in our schools and contribute their time, talents, and skills to the learning process. We are grateful for their unwavering support and strong sense of advocacy towards our students' success. Each of these individuals has an important role on our team, and it is a privilege to take this moment to thank them for their partnership. As your name is called, please come forward to be recognized and remain for a group photograph of all our outstanding volunteers. From Bright Beginnings, Charles Williams. From Clara Bird Baker, Scott Hayes. From DJ Montague, Debbie Brew. From J. Blaine Blayton, Jennifer Walker. From James River, Nicole Green. From Laurel Lane, Brandy Sullivan. From Matoka, Ali Yannicka. From Matthew Whaley, Caroline Cox. From Norge, Erin Larson. From Stonehouse, Danielle Cushman. From Berkeley, Michael Loy. From Lois S. Hornsby, Jill Dalton. From James Blair, Dr. Jennifer Bickham Mendez. From Tuano, Karen Rath. From Jamestown, Laura Johnson. From Lafayette, Dr. Stephen Mayers. And from War Hill, Stacey Cottrell.
I get half of you shorter people. So much again for the time and energy you give to our schools every day. We would like to acknowledge another valuable member in our community this evening. Now I would like to recognize another valuable member of our community this evening, Karen Peterson. Please join us up front. Ms. Peterson was recently named to the Virginia PTA Honorary Life Membership as one of the highest honors in the PTA. We appreciate the time, efforts, and advocacy Ms. Peterson contributed to the school division to receive this distinction. Congratulations, Karen. This concludes our recognitions for this evening. We will have more recognitions at the first meeting in June. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 5.2. This is the school spotlight, Jamestown High School.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, the school spotlight shines on Jamestown High School. Principal Howard Townsend and members of his staff are here to share how a unique parent engagement program is helping define the school culture and create opportunities to support both students and their families. Welcome, Mr. Townsend.
Good evening. Again, I am Howard Townsend, principal of Jamestown High School. I would like to take this time to introduce some of my team members. First is Dr. Anna Thomas, assistant principal. Next is Chris Ames, who is one of our MTSS coordinators and also a math teacher. Angel Poole, a social studies teacher and also one of our orientation crew coordinators, and Sonia Cater, a Spanish teacher and also one of our orientation crew coordinators. Our team took an idea from last year, our student flight crew, and expanded it to include our parents. We want to take a few moments to share how we got here and where we're going. With support from our Office of Student Services, our MTSS team has tracked non-mandatory suspensions. Offenses that do not carry a mandatory suspension can range from classroom disruptions to inappropriate conduct. Over time, repeated offenses of disruption can lead to an out-of-school suspension. Comparing our third quarter data to that of the prior year, we see a 57% drop in these type of suspensions. While one initiative or measure cannot account for this, our team feels our efforts in engaging students and parents with understanding school-wide expectations impacts our data. These expectations rest in this acronym we call FLIGHT.
FLIGHT encompasses the qualities of a Jamestown High School student. Our students and faculty created this acronym as the basis of our school-wide expectations. Focus, leadership, inspiration, global awareness, honor, and tolerance form our expectations. However, these terms may mean many different things in different places. Focused in a chemistry lab is going to look very different than focused in a math classroom. Last year, our teachers created classroom expectations based on our school-wide expectations. Our teachers introduced these expectations alongside their classroom rules. Expectations express desired behaviors, while rules give boundaries for acceptable actions. By defining expectations, we give students a clear picture of what the desired behaviors look like. Last year, we introduced our student flight crew, a team of diverse students who analyzed our school data and gave feedback to the administration. Our faculty sought a diverse small group of students who could give school administration and the faculty a different view of our school data. At one session, we asked our students which actions or ideas to stop, red light, analyze, think about, yellow light, or continue, green light. Each student had a pad of Post-it notes to place on the posters. After the students completed the exercise, we asked them to spot any overarching themes or connections. This year, we included a parent flight crew. We invited the parents and guardians of our flight crew to join us in the analysis. Our parents completed the same exercise, and we showed them what their students also said.
The data we collected from the students and parents gave us ideas for next steps. All parties saw the need for more supports for our freshman students.
Our next steps led to our school to create a parent university and a flight crew expansion. Our discipline data shows that freshmen account for 43% of all disciplinary referrals. That population gives us an opportunity to make significant decreases in suspensions by focusing on engaging with those families.
Next year, for the first time, Jamestown will host a parent university on August 20th from 1 to 3 p.m. in the JHS auditorium. We'll give a tour of the building and discuss the different options that high school brings. The JHS orientation crew has a special day for freshman orientation on August 27th, but we wanted to have time for our newest parents to learn about Jamestown. The information from the parent flight crew, PTSA meetings, and discipline data shows us that there is a need to introduce our flight expectations and graduation information to our incoming freshman families.
On May 29th at 6 p.m., we will host a Take Flight night at Jamestown High School. We've reached out to our partnering middle schools. We'd love to have our rising 9th grade families join our current families for this event. Our student flight crew and O crew will present information related to our school culture and transitioning to the upcoming school year. Parents will also have the opportunity to share feedback with our team and register for the parent flight crew through the Remind app.
The parent university and our flight crew serve different purposes for our families. Flight crew is an opportunity for our school administrators, teachers, and staff to listen to our families and collect data. Parent University is our opportunity to teach and engage with our families. As we move forward, we are excited to bring new and different community resources to these experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. School board members, Ms. Cook?
Oh, left. Where'd they go?
You can't leave that quick.
I just want to walk away with the clicker. I'm known to do that.
Thank you very much for coming to share this with us tonight. This series of initiatives really, I can tell, will build community and set expectations. And so I applaud you for that, for continuing to build a wonderful Eagle community. And also just as a parent, having notice for something that's in August now is invaluable. And so thank you for giving notice and letting people know that you value them and you want them to put something on their calendar now. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments? I too just want to say kudos, accolades as a parent of 4 children and 3 that have been rising freshmen. This sounds phenomenal. As a parent, I still one more to go into 9th grade. I think this is great for rising freshmen, especially first-time rising freshman parents, to have this connection early on to their schools. And I think it's great when our high schools pilot programs like this, and then maybe our other high schools can learn and take those lessons with them as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 6.1. This is an opportunity for citizens to provide comment. So I will turn it over to Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is at this point in our meeting where citizens are invited to address the board. Those citizens desiring to speak should have submitted speaker cards to the clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. These speakers are asked to come to the podium when their names are called, state their names for the record, and direct their comments to the chair of the board. It is the board's interest and desire that all comments are heard and respected. Hence, citizens are asked to not engage in applauding, verbal outbursts, or any other type of demonstrations during the presentations. Personnel matters are not considered in public meetings, therefore the board requests that all speakers refrain from making reference to specific individuals in any form or fashion. Though the board does not respond to your comments during the meeting, your comments are being heard and appreciated. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to make their presentation, and the board asks that you respect this time limitation. Also, please be reminded that no time may be yielded to another speaker. Your acceptance and adherence to these guidelines will be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair. My instructions are concluded.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Hummel?
Andrew Archibald.
Evening, Board. I'm here to continue talking about teacher retention, especially our staff that has already done amazing things with our students and are on the fence about whether or not to come back. We're facing a real shortage with it only getting worse, a first in the history of education. If you don't take steps now, we could be facing a lowering of our students' education because our best staff are leaving. And what are we replacing them with? One thing a teacher will look at when deciding to leave is the resources available to them in their current school. The last time we were here in Stryker, we heard from Lafayette students telling us about the outdated technology. So resources are questionable. Keeping up with these things is the job of central office. Next thing a teacher may consider when deciding to leave is how supported they are by their administration in their current school. This information we get straight from the climate survey. Still haven't seen it. What are the buildings or central office trying to hide from the public? These two aspects are controlled by administration, both in the central office and in the buildings. And now we have a gun that actually made it into one of the buildings. This is a first for the division. So the horse is now out of the barn. It is our administration's job to maintain a supportive, nurturing, and most importantly, safe environment for all students and staff. On all 3 counts, I have serious doubts that these jobs are being done. But how can we know for sure that administration is doing their job both in central office and in the buildings? It was pointed out at the last meeting by a board member that his job was simply to govern and write policy. Then dare I ask, whose job is it to hold administration accountable? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel Linehan.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Linehan, and I am here tonight to request and express my support of installing metal detectors in the high school. This request comes after the arrest of a student who brought a loaded gun to War Hill last week. My husband and I are parents of an elementary school student, and although he's not in high school yet, he will be in the next several years. So I'm here to speak on his behalf as well as other students around his age. I want to recognize the student who noticed the gun and went straight to the adult in the building. I think that's incredibly courageous, and had that person not done that, we don't know what could have happened. The student with the gun, 6 rounds of ammunition, and more ammunition in his car would have never gotten into the building if we had metal detectors. It simply would not have happened. Metal detectors can be found in any mass public space: airports, courthouses, hospitals, museums, ballparks, concert arenas, government buildings, businesses, bus terminals, and the list goes on. We're protecting masses of people in a lot of different kinds of buildings and spaces except for schools right now. I realize it takes money to do this, and I would be happy to volunteer my time to sit on a panel of community members who could put their heads together and try to find some way to defray the cost. But I'm hoping that somewhere we can find the money to do this. I feel like with War Hill, we had our warning. We have an incredible opportunity to make safety changes in our school to protect our teachers and our students and our staff. Politics aside, gun laws are not changing or not changing fast enough, and so we have to. I ask you that you take this opportunity to consider implementing metal detectors in our buildings for the safety of our students and our teachers and our staffs. And just to be leaders in our community, you have an opportunity to do this and to make everyone in these buildings safer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dan Clark.
Guess I make the trifecta because I'm speaking on the same issue. My name is Dan Clark. My daughter currently attends War Hill, and I have 2 previous graduates as children from War Hill High School. School safety is our most important priority, and we take it very seriously. That relationship with our families to care for their children every day, whether around security measures or building relationships and taking care of their children the way they would. That is our goal every day. That's a quote from War Hill's current principal. I feel like he's failing. I'm not going to inundate you guys with a lot of statistics, but one that really stood out to me was that in the United States alone, last year, there were 1,600 unintentional shootings, with over 500 resulting in death. This year, there have been over 450 just since January 22nd, because that's the only information I could find, with 94 of them resulting in accidental death. I bring those points up because my daughter sat next to that student every single day in class. And all it would have taken was for him to reach in and have a pencil or some other item in his book bag to accidentally discharge that firearm. I said that I felt like that quote was misrepresented because I made 3 phone calls on Friday to the school. I made a phone call to the school board. I have yet to receive a return call from anyone. The only one, I did receive one call back, and that was from an email that was sent. We don't know his intent. We don't know if he had an issue with staff or administrator or another student. We don't know if it was with another student, if that student didn't show up the next day with a gun. What's going to be done to stop that, to stop this thing from happening again? I implore you guys to consider metal detectors. With the grants that have been applied for from the state each of the previous 5 years, that is ample funds to secure those items. In addition, the School Violence Prevention Program is a federal grant program. Information can be obtained at cops.usdoj.gov/SVPP. Provides up to 75% funding for training, metal detectors, locks, lighting, and deterrent measures. This is information that you guys can definitely use to obtain those funds, and the the deadline for that grant for this upcoming school year is May 31st. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Michael Philip Nicholas Garcia Hart.
Oh, I'm kind of nervous, so sorry. We have had two tragedies in the matter of a month, and we have no one doing anything about it except just roll it off their shoulders like it's nothing. But we need like some form of training to like help with the mental. Sorry, I'm really nervous. But no, bullying will lead to like other situations, eating disorder, or self-harm. The list goes on. So I'm here to like try to initialize as perhaps a program to raise upstanders instead of bystanders. There's have someone like intervene when something is happening. Like respond to the call. I'm really sorry. Just I'm really nervous. I don't really know. I don't really have a speech planned out, but I do know that the War Hill, the gun situation wasn't the only situation at War Hill. There was also someone who took their own life a few weeks prior due to a bullying. And it wasn't even fair bullying, it was bullying based on their sexuality. And we have like programs like that, but I feel like the programs need to extend farther than just us to schools, like probably East City or something. I'm unsure. But thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Jennifer Garcia.
Good evening. I know that many people are really concerned about the incident at War Hill, and that's rightfully so. I grew up walking through metal detectors, and moving to Williamsburg, it was like a bubble of safety, and unfortunately that bubble has now ended. The last semester, actually, my son also had to intervene and tell the principal and the assistant principal that there were bullets that someone had bullets in the school. So this isn't really the first incident. And I echo the parent before me from War Hill who said, sometimes you call and you ask questions, but you don't get a response from anyone, which is quite frustrating. But what I want to talk about is safety in terms of not just like metal detectors, but safety for all students to feel safe, and so that I can feel like my child is safe in school, that the administration and everyone else is going to respond when we have a concern. We've had bullying instances throughout our time in the WJCC school system, which has been very frustrating. From a principal telling me boys will be boys and telling me about their children, to someone else, telling me please come get your child, because with the incident that happened at Parkland, it was a Latino student who had the same name as my child, and people started calling him a school shooter. Now, we all know that mental illness is something that happens, but there are certain things that can push that mental illness to the forefront, and bullying as such as that can really do that. My child began self-harming and thoughts about suicide, asked the counselor to intervene. They did not. Got a call from the principal saying, come pick up your child because a parent is upset and has threatened to come to the school to take care of it if we didn't. The other issue is also in terms of upstanders. We do need to find a way to help students learn how to deal with bullying, but also to not do it. And there are programs out there. I don't always come with just complaints. I come with suggestions. So VCIC has programs that they do in the school. I actually called the principal of my child's school and said, hey, did you know this was was happening, and they had no clue. But since I volunteer with that group, that school was actually there. So that is also a concern if the principals don't know what their students are going or doing. The other thing that I will say is that with the issues of bullying, when something happens, like my child was assaulted the day before the stepping up exercises and nothing was done. The child then went on to participate in stepping up exercises and still is playing the sport that my child walked off because he didn't want to be on the same team with this kid. So yes, while I understand FERPA fully, I know that I cannot know what happens with these students, but perception is reality. And when you see things not happening that are in line with what the policy says in terms of bullies and how you react, then that's something that you all need to take into consideration. And maybe there's some additional training and support you can provide to our administrators and our teachers, because they deal with a lot, but sometimes it just doesn't seem like there's enough going on and happening to respond to these things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kim Hunley?
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. This is my last meeting with you all. This is ending my term as president of the Teachers Association. I want to thank you for the 3 years you've allowed me to come and pour out my heart of how the teachers feel in my quirky kind of way. So as you know, I've told you before, since age 4, I've wanted to be a teacher. When I took my 2 doll babies and 4 teddy bears to my mother's classroom with a chalkboard as wide as your stand there and wrote in cursive. But I also wanted to be a fairy or a good witch, hence the magic wands. I wish I had a magic wand this year for the things that have come from teachers. Bullying in schools, poof, gone. Children that want to kill themselves at any age, poof, gone. Drugs, alcohol, guns that come into school, poof, gone. Large class sizes, poof, gone. Bad administrators and bad teachers, I'm gonna keep it real, it's both. Poof, gone. I would like to be the good witch, get counselors in there to help children. We need counselors. Smaller class sizes, I wanted to be like Bewitch, do that, or her little daughter, sprinkle my nose. Magic, there's no such thing as magic. But we work magic every day, the teachers do. We try, and it's very hard. We don't have the support, the resources, and I just say, welcome to public education. That's the only exclamation I can get. The public here does not want to get off of 2 cents so that we can have smaller class sizes, more administrators, assistant principals, resource officers, whatever we need, more counselors. They don't want to come up off the money, and yet they want us to work magic. That's what we're dealing with. And it's hard being in Williamsburg, Virginia, the tourist town. I love WJCC, but I wish we weren't in a tourist town, because I think we would get more results, because we don't want anybody to know that we're having things like this happen, and it happens everywhere. But we're in a place we don't want people to know, and we have to be transparent, and we have to say, this is the reality that we're dealing with, and not be afraid. And then we work together to get it done correctly. Because we are WJCC. I have the bracelet. I believe that. But we have to act like it, and we have to do some tough things. Tough things, because our children need us, all of us. So next year, this part, I'll just say, not as president as Kim Hunley, I'm definitely praying for WJCC. I want us to reap what we sow, and I don't want us to sow bad. So be kind, eat chocolate, and work magic. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the following meetings, April 23rd and May 7, 2019. Item 7.2, approval of financial report and monthly bills and payroll for April 2019. Item 7.3, review policy JICA school uniforms. 7.4, revised policy IHA grouping for instruction. Item 7.5, revised policy KG community use of facilities. And item 7.6, revise, recode, rename policy KI, public sales and solicitation in the schools, to KGA, sales and solicitation in the schools. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda as read by you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Surza.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Ownby?
Aye. Okay, before we move on to the action items, which involves discussion of the budget, I believe Ms. Cook and Mr. Kelly have a statement to read. Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to say that as a member of the School Board of Williamsburg, James City County, I acknowledge I have an interest in the fiscal year 2019-2020 school budget because I'm an employee of the Williamsburg Health Foundation. However, I believe I'm able to participate in the consideration of and vote on the budget fairly and in the public's interest.
Ms. Cook, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. As a member of the School Board of Williamsburg, James City County, I have an interest in the fiscal year 2019-2020 school budget because my wife is an employee of the WJCC schools. However, I believe I am able to participate in the consideration of and vote on the budget fairly and in the public interest.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Item 8.1, adoption of the amended fiscal year 20 operating budget. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move adoption of the amended fiscal year 20 operating budget, the amount of $152,971,706.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Chair, prior to the adoption of the budget this evening, Ms. Ewing's going to present for the board and the public the amendments that were necessary, or adjustments to the original approved budget of the board. It's very much a reconciling night tonight because we've already approved everything that's on the table, but we're not able to do everything because of the less funds being available. So, Ms. Ewing, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Herron. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Before you this evening is the recommendation from the administration to achieve a balanced budget for fiscal year 20. Earlier this month, James City County and the City of Williamsburg adopted their fiscal year 20 budgets, and the school board approved budget was not fully funded. Adjustments in the amount of $993,768 are necessary to achieve a balanced budget based on the funding we are receiving from the localities. It is important to note that there are some items recommended to remain within the adopted budget. Those include the following: 5 additional FTEs for school counselors for $375,000, 2 additional FTEs for ESL teachers for $150,000, 3 additional FTEs for special education teachers for $225,000, 2 additional FTEs for early childhood special education teachers for $150,000, 4 additional FTEs for middle school assistant principals, $440,000, 2 additional FTEs for instructional assistants, $50,000, a half FTE for an educational interpreter, $20,000, funds to increase the social studies coordinator position from half-time to full-time, $45,000, funds to increase an elementary gifted resource teacher from half-time to full-time, $37,500, 1 additional FTE for a speech-language pathologist, $75,000, increased funding to support New Horizons program, including additional special education needs, $71,196. Increased funding for additional required services provided through special education, $55,600. Increased funding for assessments and testing, $16,235. Increased funding to support new licensing structure for technology programs and online registration for the student information system, $75,740. Increased funding for instructional technology licenses, $13,290. Increased funding for instructional programs and resources, $149,174. School board approved budget totaled $142,513,126, but the county and city approved school budget totals $141,519,358 for a difference of $993,768.
Administration is recommending the following adjustments to balance the budget. Providing a salary increase of 3.5% rather than 4% for a reduction of $477,857. Reducing the number of replacement buses by 2 for a reduction of $220,000. Fulfill the middle school security needs with 2 FTEs rather than 4 FTEs for a reduction of $76,000. Reduce the amount for workers' compensation insurance due to the change in salary increase from 4% to 3.5% for a reduction of $9,000. Reduce a request for a new maintenance vehicle for operations for a reduction of $25,000. The vehicle was purchased in the current year. Transferring to the Synergy Assessment System for a reduction of $80,000. And utilizing additional attrition savings in the amount of $105,911 to balance, which will bring our total attrition savings built into the fiscal year 20 budget to $1,154,505. With these reductions, the operating budget will total $141,519,358, or an increase of $3,710,414. The grants and state-operated fund totals changed slightly from the school board approved budget due to a change in how a position at the Merrimack Center is being funded. The grants fund changed from $5,614,924 to $5,704,599. The state-operated fund total changed from $1,180,201 to $1,092,969. The child nutrition total remains the same at $4,654,780, for a grand total of all funds in the amount of $152,971,706 that we are seeking approval for tonight. Any questions?
Ms. Cook?
Thank you. I'd like to first thank you, Dr. Herron and Ms. Ewan, for your hard work on this. This is a year-long group effort, so you and your teams have done a really good job to bring this to us over the matter of weeks. And I think that you've done an exceptional job this year of demonstrating to the public what was increased in our budget this year compared to last, and not only being clear about what, but why. And so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. This all started with Dr. Herron and you presenting to us a budget of need. And I would say that that budget of need was incredibly conservative, and probably we could identify some additional needs that could easily be justified. And our request, as you noted in your presentation, was not fully funded. But could you help us understand, in a biennial budget from James City County, did they fund us exactly as they planned, or did the county increase a little, or just our level? Do you happen to have that information? I'm sorry, I am catching you off guard on this one.
They increased a little based on what they had originally planned last year, based on an increase, I believe, in the sales tax.
Okay, thank you. So based on the state required piece of the sales tax?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, I'm grateful for that slight increase, but it's still, not enough. And so I hope that next year, when the localities enter into their budget planning process, we can take the opportunity over the next year or two to communicate what those needs are and what we would do with the additional funds that are, I think, more than justifiable. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. And as I said earlier, when we adopted our budget request, I support this as presented.
Are there additional comments? Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jumping off from what this is from Mrs. Cook's comments, and I certainly do agree with those. It is disappointing that our budget hasn't been we've requested was not fully funded. But I think also what was stated earlier about joint lobbying of Richmond.
Advocacy
from Richmond. Thank you. Thank you. Because if we really get down to it, if we look at state funding, it is just this year the state has passed the number that they gave us in 2010. So that sounds good, but we have 1,100 additional students now. So it's not keeping up with the need, it's not meeting the need. Our localities have done a pretty extraordinary job over the last few years, and I would say since 2010, when the state really cut their funding to help us. They couldn't make up all of the state's money, but they have done I think as well as they possibly could. When you look at this budget, some of the increases, school counselor positions, I think that is a very important part, and I think this board has advocated strongly to add those 5 additional school counselors. The additional ESL teachers, the SPED teachers, I think adding those positions, support positions, is a start, maybe another step along the path, but there are many more steps to take as we advocate for our children, and frankly, not to call it Ms. Hunley, but as Ms. Hunley said, to advocate for our profession, the profession of teaching. The profession of teaching, if we don't pay attention, is in trouble. And what's going to have to happen is this country is going to have an emotional event that's going to require us to put dollars at the problem and solve the problem, because and unfortunately the problem doesn't get solved immediately, because the kids coming into the our school of education, the people training to be teachers is reducing. People are not choosing that as a profession, and they're not choosing that as a profession, I think, not necessarily because of money so much as it is class sizes and teachers' assistants and all those other things. If you listen to the areas in this country that have had strikes, they've talked a little bit about money, but they've also talked about class sizes and teachers' assistants and support of the teaching and the teaching profession and the demands that we put on our teachers. And that is going to be that's going to be an emotional event that this country is going to have to face, and I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be, but it's not far off, and it's not far off in our state. In the western part of the Commonwealth, there are school systems that cannot fully hire the teachers that they need, and that wave is moving across the state, so be prepared for it. Off my soapbox. I appreciate the work that the administration, Dr. Herron and Ms. Dino has put into preparing this budget, and I'm in the position right now to support it this evening.
Mr. Kelly, additional comment? Ms. Young?
Yes, again, looking at the budget, and I do understand the necessity for cuts, and I want to thank Mr. Kelly for pointing out our budget. We rely on funding from James City County and from Williamsburg City, but a lot of our requirements are things that we have no control over, and yet we're asked to continually provide them. And it bothers me more than I can even say about the loss of 0.5% of pay for our teachers, because as Mr. Kelly pointed out, and as anyone who is a teacher or whoever has been one, you know that our teachers work magic, and I want to thank Ms. Huntley for saying that. They have limited resources and yet more and more demands, and I've heard it said before, and I know as a teacher, a retired teacher, that every year you're asked to do more with less time and with less resources. And again, here we are with a decrease in salary by 0.5%, and I find that extremely troubling, because if we want to retain the best teachers, and we certainly have many, many fine teachers, we can't keep doing that. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you so much for keeping in all the requested school counselors, just because mental health of our students is so important, and we're seeing that more and more. Briefly, could you touch on the 2 FTEs for security guards and how that will look at our middle schools?
We haven't fully decided where they'll be placed yet, but we'll be sharing 2 security officers over the 4 middle schools. So we'll be looking at the schools on their specific needs. Obviously, they won't have one full-time, but for the first time, they will actually have access to a security officer. Also, by adding the 4 assistant principals at middle school, we're adding an extra instructional leader, an adult presence, leadership presence in the building, which they haven't had before either. So now each middle school will have a principal and 2 assistant principals and a part-time security person. And so we're excited that we're able to take it to that level next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question last year when James Blair was open. Didn't we have a full-time security person there?
We actually added a temporary full-time security person this year, but that position was not in the budget. It was added after the budget as a temporary position. So James Blair will have access to a part-time security person, but they will have an extra assistant principal next year.
Right, thank you.
And just to clarify, Ms. Young, I think maybe what you're referring to is we opened up Blair with a full-time SRO, a student resource officer.
Right, there you go, thank you.
I also want to thank the administration and the finance department for trying to come up with this almost $1 million shortfall between a budget of need and then what we received from our funding partners, which in my mind is just really disappointing. But I think the choices that were made by administration are the correct ones. You put your although I would like to give the, I would of course want to give the teachers the 4%. It's such a, by moving it to 3.5%, it's $600,000 that you can then fund all of the other strategic things that I think help schools' safety. So the additional principals, the additional, the part-time help, the counselors, all of those things in my mind are giving a little release to what I sense is this overwhelming sense of just not enough time in the day to get what has to be done from the administrative, the counseling level, you're dealing with so many children with so many issues and so many problems, and I think all of us in this community have to assume that our administrators, our counselors, assume positive intent. And I think sometimes people don't realize that the intent to positively impact the community when things go wrong, or the school community, or whatever, a lot of it is just an overwhelming, not enough time, not enough people, not enough support. So I'm disappointed that our funding partners didn't rise to the challenge, but I do think by making these cuts and deciding how we're going to fund the critical pieces, I approve wholeheartedly the decision-making to happen.
Dr. Beers?
Yeah, one of the things that I would say about this budget, and I also echo other members of the board in appreciating what the superintendent and her staff have done with the challenges that we were facing. One of the things I think that it's important to remember about a budget, school budget, is the investment in human capital, teachers, bus drivers, and rightly so, the largest percentage of our budget goes towards that human capital. We don't have a lot of discretionary funds. They're the most important things for us. So when we get requests or we try to do some additional things to help support that human capital, it is frustrating when you run up against a wall, which basically says, you can have this much and no more, and then we have to make other decisions. But I hope the public recognizes that it's also part of their responsibility. It's one thing to get up here every board meeting and request this and request that, and we need support for this, and we need support for that. And 99 times out of 100, we're all probably going, boy, that's right. You know, we really do. But those folks also need to be going to the city council, board of supervisors meetings. Also, get in touch with your local representatives to the General Assembly. Monty Mason, Mike Mullen. There are a number of people. It's like you need to make people start to feel uncomfortable about the status quo, and you have to do some things about it. You know, I'm a product of the 60s. I don't make as much noise today as I used to, but by God, there are times when we have to be heard. And we're, you know, there's 7 of us, but we have a whole population of parents and concerned citizens out there that can make a lot more noise than we can, and it's really important that we work together in trying to meet those challenges, many of which are handed down from the state and the federal government with little or no funding. They may start with a grant. Somebody was talking about grants. And that grant may last 2 years, maybe 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, if you want to continue on with that particular approach or project, it's got to come out of your budget. We've got to pick up that. So, I share the frustration, but I'm also a realist, and if this is absolutely the best the city and council can, and board of supervisors can do, then maybe we have to make some more noise next year.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. I'd just like to say I agree with all of my board colleagues. I certainly support this budget and thank Dr. Herron and staff for combing it, literally going back after the $1 million shortfall and combing it and making decisions to be able to fund the items that are so needed. But then jumping off what Dr. Beers said, this really is a budget of status quo. And so for the community to understand, while this is a budget of need, this budget does not allow us to lower class size. It does not allow us to really fund enough special education teachers to meet the need in our division. This budget does not allow us to fund enough ELL positions to meet the need of our changing demographics in this community. It does not allow us to fully implement all of the security measures that many community members have demanded tonight. It doesn't allow us to provide all of the technology resources that we would like to provide to all of our students across the division. So this is a call to the community. The community needs to embrace our schools. People move to WJCC because of our schools. And so our teachers, we've asked them year after year to work magic. We've asked our administration year after year to work magic. And so it's now time for the larger community to get on the bandwagon. And while I appreciate the work that our funders have done, quite frankly, it's not enough. The state is not enough. But this maybe is the call. Yeah. So with that, we have a motion and a second. Information, we've discussed this.
All the questions.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Surza.
Mrs. Taylor? Aye. Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Umby?
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Surza. Moving on to item 8.2 is adoption of the amended CIP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Ewan's going to again present the changes from the city and county, not so much in the amount of funding, but in the placement of some of the projects from our original CIP, school board approved CIP.
Since, as the parliamentarian, before you can discuss an action, I may have to have a motion. So I will move the adoption of the amended five-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 20 through 24, in the amount of $93,790,435.
Second.
See, I thought I did it wrong last time.
Thanks, Mr. Parliamentarian.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Ewing.
Thank you. I'll review tonight what was approved in the school board's capital improvement plan for fiscal year 20 as it compares to what was funded by the city and county. The important thing to remember about the capital improvement plan is the first year of the plan is the funded year and the remaining 4 years are just a plan. Before I begin, I'd just like to mention that most of the projects have small differences due to the way the localities round their budget numbers for CIP. So within the school board's approved plan for fiscal year 20, we requested the following projects. The partial refurbishment at Norge was requested for $169,646. The funded amount is $169,947. The partial refurbishment at James River was requested for $294,920. The funded amount is $294,962. The roof evaluation and repair to low slope areas at Stonehouse was requested for $155,825, which has been fully funded. The partial refurbishment at Stonehouse was requested for $369,702. The funded amount is $370,026. The repainting and resurfacing portions of the metal roof at Matoka was requested for $216,192. The funded amount is $216,527. The design for HVAC replacement at Berkeley was requested for $381,892. The funded amount is $382,236. The replacement of storefront entrance windows at Toano was requested for $72,791. The funded amount is $72,912. The replacement of the walk-in refrigerator and freezer at Jamestown was requested for $87,418. That has been fully funded. The replacement of the generator at Jamestown was requested for $57,368. The funded amount is $57,301. The overhaul of the cooling tower at War Hill was requested for $100,148. The funded amount is $100,530. Division-wide parking lot funds were requested for $320,000. The funded amount is $319,854. We requested $90,000 for division-wide playground equipment. That has been fully funded. The design for an expansion at War Hill High School was requested for $890,332. The funded amount is $890,412. The design for a new elementary school was requested for $3,533,221. This has not been funded in fiscal year 20. It has been moved to fiscal year 23 within the plan. When we look in total, we requested in fiscal year 20, $6,739,454, and the localities have funded $3,207,950 for a difference of $3,531,504. This difference is for the design of a new elementary school, which has been moved to fiscal year 23 in the plan. As we look at how we compare in the 5-year plan, you can see in total that the plan has been fully funded. However, some projects have been shifted to other years. The design and construction of an elementary school was requested in fiscal years 20 and 21. That project has been moved to fiscal years 23 and 24. The design and construction of an expansion at Jamestown was requested in fiscal years 21 and 22. That has been moved to fiscal years 22 and 23. The construction of an expansion at War Hill was requested in fiscal year 21. That has been moved to fiscal year 22. The construction of an expansion at Lafayette was requested in fiscal year '22. That has been moved to fiscal year '23. Restroom renovation at Claire Bird Baker was requested in fiscal year '21. That has been moved to fiscal year '22. Several projects for Laurel Lane, which include a partial refurbishment, roof and gutter repairs, and electrical switchgear that were requested in fiscal year '21, have been moved to fiscal year '22. Division-wide funding for parking lots and playgrounds has been reduced from a total of $410,000 to $230,000 in fiscal year '21, and the difference of $180,000 was moved to fiscal year '24. The school board approved CIP for fiscal years '20 through '24 was requested for $93,790,997. The localities have a plan that totals $93,790,435 for a small difference of $562 due to rounding. I would like to note that the shifting of projects to future years could potentially result in higher costs, and the impact will be evaluated during future CIP budget cycles.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Cook?
Thank you very much, Ms. Ewing. I'd like to just first comment that I think this is the first time I can remember our 5-year plan, I recognize that it's a plan, is essentially fully funded. So things were moved around, but fully funded by Williamsburg and James City County. So I think that's a recognition that they acknowledge our needs in terms of facilities, particularly when it comes to high school expansion and elementary and need for a new elementary school. So I would just like to acknowledge that and thank them and thank you and Dr. Herron, because working together and showing the data and demonstrating the need has been successful. And also I think touring the schools, particularly the elementary schools, has also demonstrated that we're programming every single nook and cranny in our schools right now with very little wiggle room. So I have a question about elementary school and then high school. So the new elementary school has been moved out from what our needs to what they're on paper willing to fund 3 years, correct?
Yes.
So this isn't for answering tonight, but I'm curious about what, if any, impact that may have on the need for mobile classroom space.
It's hard to assess because we don't know where the students are coming, but we do have 5 schools at 100%. And overall, we're at 98.7% in elementary. So that's including pre-K. So there's no room for movement. We are adding an additional trailer at Matthew Whaley next year. We've also moved some programs around in the last year to create space or for current space in each of our elementaries, but there's nowhere else to go. So there is a very strong likelihood we will end up with more trailers before we build.
That's unfortunate when we talk about school security, so thank you, but I'm sorry to hear that. And hope that perhaps next year when we look at our CIP again, we're able to reflect our actual needs in that document. And then when it comes to high school, just so I understand, so the War Hill expansion design was funded for next year, but can you tell me how that integrates with the auxiliary gym and then the actual expansion, how that all, are they separate projects? Are they coordinated?
They're listed as separate projects.
Right.
Snipes has any additional?
They are separate projects listed in the same year, but since they were moved out a year, design would probably occur next year with expansion the year afterwards, because we don't have money for expansion until it's approved.
Okay, so you wouldn't engage in design until the...
Usually design takes about a year.
Okay.
And so if you move out expansion, then you wouldn't do a design until a year before that.
And do you design the gym and the expansion at the same time?
Yes, it's more feasible to do it that way.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Additional?
I'll just add that it also is a little disappointing to me that we're at 98% capacity and that we are overcrowded. And although our funding partners are funding our need in 5 years, it's really 1 year after we need it, and we had to slide everything back a year in order for that to happen. So I just wanted to say I'm disappointed in that.
Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I agree that if you look in total over the 5 years, it's been fully funded $562, which is kind of round off error. But it's 1 year funding and 4 years of plan, and the first 3 years have all been reduced from what we asked for, and the last 2 years have all been increased. And fiscal year 23 is going to be a whole new Board of Supervisors, a whole new city council, and probably a lot of us. So it's, you know, that's kind of out there. So we are, you know, the elementary school being pushed off till fiscal year 23, a full 3 years. That goes back to what I said earlier about the teaching profession, reducing class sizes. You can't reduce class sizes unless you have buildings. You got to have additional classrooms. Pushing out the high school expansions is disappointing because we continue to approve new subdivisions and new housing, but we don't make up for that with. I look towards the schools, which is an impact by those population growth. So while I appreciate the 5 year, the fiscal year 20 is not so bad, but the push out in fiscal year 21 is disturbing to me, and I would hope that sometime, maybe next year when we do the 5 year plan, that look would change. But I will be in support of this capital improvement plan tonight.
Mr. Kelly? Dr. Beers?
Actually, the only comment I would make is I am still disappointed with the philosophy of expanding our 3 high schools. I am concerned that the high schools will become larger, create additional challenges than they have right now. But I know that decision has already been made. I would have preferred going farther out, and if the enrollments in Raritan start to plan farther down the road for another high school. So what I hope doesn't happen is that those 3 high schools just continue to grow. But that's really all I have. The rest of it, I very much agree with Mr. Kelly. While things have gone up, things have been taken away, and he's absolutely right. We're pretty solid for FY20 and FY21, but after that, those numbers could all change. So, you know, keep your fingers crossed.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Unless, Ms. Young?
Well, I agree with my fellow board members. It is disappointing, and I think the thing that concerns me most of all is year 20 is solid, but the rest is just a plan, which means it can change. And I'm interpreting that correctly. So anyway, I'm hoping that it stays solid, because I at least, when I look at the plan, at least the Board of Supervisors in the city have made a real effort, I believe, to fully fund us eventually. It's just it's just late for the funding that we need now. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. There are no additional comments. I'll just say yes, I echo again my board colleagues, and this is a call to the community to talk to your elected officials. I think our data is clear, our need is clear, and the need is now. So we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Souza?
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Ownby.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item 8.3, approval of the annual contract book. Contract renewal book. I'm struggling here. Is there a motion, Mr. Kelly?
I don't want to move for this thing because I hate this thing. I move approval of the annual contract renewal book for fiscal year 2019 to 2020 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
I apologize for saying that I hate this thing. It's required that we approve this every year, and I've always wondered why, because it's a list of names that I guess the General Assembly or somebody requires us to do this, and so I don't know the value added to this, but I apologize for what I said earlier.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Souza?
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook. Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Ownby.
Aye. Moving on to item 8.4, approval of salary schedules. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the pay scales and classification book for fiscal year 2019 to 2020 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Souza?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook. Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Ms. Ownby.
Aye. Moving on to item 8.5, approval of CDR lease. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve a lease agreement between Child Development Resources, known as CDR, and Williamsburg James City County School Board for a term beginning September 1, 2019 and ending August 31, 2020, with automatic renewals on September 1st for each subsequent year. The lease shall not renew beyond May 31st, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion?
Sure. So at the last meeting, I talked at length about why I disagreed with the not renew beyond May 31st, 2022 clause in this lease term. And I think we see today in our capital plan how that construction cost has been pushed out another year to 2023. And I just think that the flexibility that removes from the community to include the school board, the school system, and CDR, I think is not appropriate. So I will vote against the lease today solely because of the lease shall not renew beyond May 31st, 2022.
Ms. Cook?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to again thank staff for their work with the attorneys on this to make sure that the lease reflects the needs of the school division. And I just want to, Mr. Kelly spoke eloquently at the work session, as did several other board members, but I'd like to, add that CDR is an important part of our educational ecosystem, and as they take on the role of figuring out what their next move is, I just want to say as a school board member, I stand ready to advocate for their needs in the community, because what they do makes our job easier and better, and they just do such wonderful work with kids, and then when they get to us, they're in a better place as a result of their high-quality work. So I just wanted to thank them for that, and I will support this lease.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Additional comments?
I'll also support this. And with all due respect to Mr. Kelly, I also think that knowing what we don't know about the future 5-year plan with the CIP and what could happen with reduced funding, whatever, we need to have all the flexibility that we can have on our side to know that should things change and all of a sudden we're not, doing renovations in the way that we were thinking we were going to do renovations, and we have to think more creatively about space that is ours, that's in a building that's already built that could be refurbished. I want to make sure that our school system has the most flexibility built in for their own planning purposes. And I certainly agree with Mrs. Cook that CDR is a wonderful organization, and the fact that I'm in agreement for ending a lease with a set date doesn't do anything, of course, CDR is a wonderful organization. I just, once again, have to put the school system's needs first.
Before I offer up additional comments, if I could just ask maybe for a point of clarification, Dr. Herron, there's some additional language in this which allows us to revisit annually.
Yes, basically the language allows for automatic annual renewal of the lease on September 1 for each subsequent year up to May 31st, 2022. So we can revisit, there's an automatic renewal, but we can revisit it when we want to. Plus it allows for a 30-day requirement of a written notice of intent to terminate the lease by either the board or CDR.
Even though there's an end date of 22, if for some reason we needed it earlier, if things changed, we do have that flexibility with the language that's included in this lease. Ms. Young or Ms. Taylor?
I think I'm happy for the cutoff date, because I don't think by hanging on every year after year that we're allowing them the opportunity to get ready for a move. So I absolutely support the 2022 deadline, and I think it should be drawn in the sand.
Taylor?
I'm prepared to support this as well.
All right, I too support this, and I don't think our board's support of this in any way indicates that we are not supportive of CDR. We are very supportive of CDR as a former employee and a mother whose child was provided services through CDR. I can vouch for what an incredible organization it is. And children who are served through CDR do become our students oftentimes. So this is not in any way to say that we don't support CDR. This is about supporting our students and allowing us flexibility, which I think this lease does. So without further discussion, Ms. Surza?
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
No.
Mrs. Taylor?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Ownby?
Aye. Item 8.6, award a contract for invitation for bid 19-13993, parking lot improvements at Matthew Whaley Elementary School. Is there a motion?
I move that we award a contract for invitation for bid 19-13993, parking lot improvements at Matthew Whaley Elementary School.
Second?
Second.
You got two E.W. Muller contractors in the amount of.
Oh, thank you. I was just reading the, yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook.
Thank you, but it keeps going away on my, here it is. Do you want to just make it? Because my screen is going wonky on me.
Yeah.
Just give her mine, because she's making the motion.
Okay. I move that we award a contract 1FB 19-13993, parking lot improvements at Matthew Whaley Elementary School to E.W. Muller Contractors in the amount of $472,304.
Second.
Thank you. In discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Surza?
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Ms. Ownby?
Aye. Item 8.7, approve career and technical education computer lab technology refresh.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve purchase request of desktops for high school CTE labs from Lenovo in the amount of $115,290.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Surza?
Mrs. Taylor?
Aye.
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Ownby?
Aye. Item 8.8, approve laptops for high school teacher use.
I move that we approve the purchase request of laptops for high school teacher use in the amount of $230,700 and the associated budget transfer.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Is discussion?
That motion was much better said.
I had to redeem myself.
Hearing no discussion. Ms. Surza?
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Dr. Beers,
Aye.
Ms. Cook,
Aye.
Ms. Hummel,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Zomby.
Aye. Item 8.9, approve high school computer purchase.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve purchase request of lab desktop computer stations for high school student use in the amount of $249,500 and the associated budget transfer.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Surza?
Ms. Hummel,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook,
Aye.
Ms. Zomby.
Aye. Item 8.10, personnel actions.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the personnel actions as presented this evening for both the 21 May agenda and the 4/21/19 proposed personnel actions.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Surza? Oh, sorry.
I just want to thank Mr. Baker and his staff for the work they did on an evaluation of those personnel actions. I think that's a good step for the school division.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Surza?
Mrs. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook,
Aye.
Ms. Hummel,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Zomby.
Aye. Okay, moving on to proposed agenda items. 9.1, award a contract to Mobile-Based Modular Space, Inc. for mobile educational classroom trailer for Matthew Whaley Elementary School.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Snipes is going to introduce this item this evening.
Good evening, school board members, Madam Chair, and Dr. Herron. Tonight's agenda items precipitated by two factors, increased enrollment and lack of educational space at Matthew Whaley. During the school year 2018-2019, the auditorium stage was used as a regular classroom. Matthew Whaley is currently over capacity of its current capacity of 490 students, and as of the September 30th, 2018 enrollment report, enrollment was 541 students, with the projected enrollment for school year 2019-2020 of 544 students. This is a request to install a temporary 28 by 26 trailer behind Matthew Whaley School, which contains 2 classrooms and a restroom. Installing that trailer will alleviate the crowding at the school until a permanent solution is in place. The trailer meets the City of Williamsburg architectural review, and it was approved by the Planning Commission special use permit, and it was approved through 2023. One-time costs associated with freight, site work, and installation cost about $50,886, and with a monthly lease fee of $2,282.26, and that is included in the operating budget for fiscal year 20. The superintendent recommends the school board and/or community present any questions, comments, or concerns to administration and award a contract at your next meeting to Modular Technologies for a trailer at Matthew Whaley Elementary School.
Mr. Snipes, Ms. Cook?
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. I'm prepared to support this at the next meeting. I just want to say in general, I'm concerned about adding trailers to schools because of its, I don't think it enhances student safety, particularly in the event of severe weather, and certainly has the capacity to negatively impact or disrupt instruction in that instance. But I just want to point out, we knew we needed a trailer a while ago, and it takes this long to get it through the process of the localities and get those approvals in and then get it through the budget and go through purchasing. So I just want to point out that we're already above what we know is good, solid educational capacity in the elementary schools. We know we might have to go through this process for the other elementary schools, and if 60 kids out of the blue show up at another elementary school, that community is going to have to deal with it until we can go through the process of getting trailers, assuming that they're approved, which is not always a guarantee. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that this is not a fast solution.
And neither is it a temporary solution, since the design of the school was pushed out to fiscal year 2023. Yes. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, since the Planning Commission only approved it through 2023, and we're pretty sure they're going to need at least this trailer, maybe more, we might want to go back to the Planning Commission and tell them that we're going to need another 5 years probably by the time we do design and construction for another school. It's disappointing that we're here approving trailers when we should be here approving designs for new school, because new schools particularly at our elementary level where we are across the board very heavy. But sometimes you need the emotional event, and as more of these trailers pop up at more of our elementary schools, and more citizens get to see that, and more citizens get to talk to their city council and supervisors, maybe we will have that emotional decision before 2023. So, but it's disappointing that we're going to have to put a trailer in there, but it's not the last one. So let's get used to it, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, I don't like trailers. I really don't like trailers. I don't think that they're safe. I mean, I'm not complaining to you. I'm just saying in general, the concept of trailers irks me. So, I know we've got to do this, but I look at the overcrowded, situation at the high schools as well, and I see it all coming down the pike, and I'm worried about security. I'm worried about weather. So, but yeah, we can only do what we can do with our CIP and our budget. So, Julie is not happy.
Thank you, Mrs. Hummel. Additional comments? Ms.
Well, it's
Young?
too bad we can't blame Mr. Snipes, don't you think? Well, I agree with my board members. I don't think this is a good solution, but that's where we're at.
No, it's not. It's not you will.
Additional comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Snipes. All right, moving on to the next item, approved purchase for request for strategic management enterprise information reporting system and supporting budget transfer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Goal 6 of the Division Strategic Plan, Elevate Beyond Excellence, has as its first strategy to implement a strategic management system. And Mr. Landers has been leading this effort for the division and is bringing this information this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Herron. As Dr. Herron said, Strategy 1, Goal 6 of our strategic plan, Elevate Beyond Excellence, is to implement a strategic management system that provides consistent access to data for use in decision making. It is also identified as a year 1 strategy. Excuse me. Our Goal 6 core team, which is comprised of our Chief of Staff, Chief Financial Officer, Senior Director for Operations, Senior Database Analyst, and myself, began meeting in October of last year to plan our progression toward this goal. After reviewing an initial list of requirements for such a system, it was decided to expand our group and recommend issuing a request for proposal in order to determine what our options may be. We invited both assistant superintendents, the supervisor for instructional technology, the coordinator for accountability and assessment, and the James City County Director of Procurement to join our team to provide input for the needs and requirements to develop the RFP. Additional input was also received from additional work from our principals and assistant principals in work related to this effort. RFP 19-13885 was issued on March 1st and closed April 4th of this year. 4 vendors responded to the solicitation, which the RFP team reviewed using the criteria of ease of use, data visualization, level of support, security of the system and the data connection capability, and the cost of acquisition. 2 vendors were selected as top candidates and were invited to provide on-site demonstrations on May 8th, which were attended by the RFP team and all of senior leadership. The selected vendor was Whonuit Incorporated for the Whonuit Data Management and Dashboard Solution. The solution and proposed contract provides for the following. The Essentials module includes attendance, academic assessment, and accountability data. The Student Success module identifies where students are on their graduation track. Social and Emotional Learning module ties existing data to survey-specific data related to student information. The Early Warning and Interventions module identifies students at risk using division-specified criteria, as well as the ability to assign interventions. The Operations module tracks finance, survey, and other division-specific data. The Human Capital module provides tracking of data related to staff. Additionally, implementation services include installation, configuration, data connections to our existing systems, as well as Virginia and national assessment data. It also provides for the initial dashboard setup and training with on-site visits and a complete train-the-trainer model. The proposal provides for off-site hosting of the solution, which includes complete, secure, encrypted connections with built-in performance monitoring, maintenance, and disaster recovery services. Provided within the contract are also stipulations to provide at no additional cost any updates that may be required based on changes to ESSA or state requirements. The cost for the Whonuit system is $281,100 for the first year, which includes implementation services in addition to the yearly license and maintenance fee. Following years will be $109,500 per year, which provides for license, maintenance, and hosting fees each year. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Landers. I'm very excited about this because I know it'll allow you to answer questions that you have, that you and all your colleagues have. And I also love the way they spell Whonuit.
Yes.
I just think that's very creative. And I'm familiar with that product and that company and find them to be quite impressive. So I'm excited to see you all get this and use it.
Thank you. We're excited as well.
No disrespect, Mrs. Cook. We were just, it's a very dry topic, and he did a very good job explaining it. It's just, it's
very
kind of
exciting.
hard it's kind of hard for the rest of us to get excited about this, but I understand. But
it takes all of us.
It does.
Techies get very
Mr. Kelly,
we are really
excited. We are really excited.
Techies get very excited about that, and I appreciate that. Can you kind of go through the process that you use to select them and why we, other vendors that you looked at potentially, and what brought the team to this one?
Well, as mentioned, there were 4 responses to the solicitation. So the team looked at those individually, not allowed to speak with each other at the time, and we used the criteria that I mentioned to evaluate each of the responses. So the 2 high scorers were invited to provide demonstrations, answer questions to an expanded team. They had the opportunity to demonstrate their solution. So combination of the data visualizations they were able to provide, the data analysis they were able to provide, the connections they were able to make to our existing data, the team came together with the top selected vendor. Recommended vendor. Right,
and while it's a very dry topic, it's a very important thing to do. It's very important to have access to that data and access to that information.
Absolutely.
And be able to distill it and get it to the child level and know what the child needs. And so I appreciate the good work of the team and making this selection. And as Ms. Cook said, they do have a cool name.
Mr. Kelly. Mr. Landers, I do just have one question. So you talked about the initial outlay, a little over $200,000, and the annual fee of around $109,000, I think you said. And that, so is there a contract that we signed that locks in that annual fee for a period of time?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be a 1-year contract with 8 optional renewals, and that annual fee is locked in for that entire 8-year period.
Okay. Okay, Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional,
Just Miss Kitty Hall did a great job in
Fantastic.
negotiating that 7-year out at the same price.
okay, that's exciting. That's
Way
you.
excellent to work with.
Thank you, Ms. Kitty Hall. Thank you, Mr. Landers.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our information items, equity through engagement. This is exciting stuff. This is our website, redesign and accessibility.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're excited tonight to introduce the redesign of our new website for the division, and Ms. Cox is going to lead off, and I believe Mr. Shoa is going to be a huge part of the presentation this evening as well.
So let me just begin by saying that Mr. Shoa is a huge part of everything related to the website. He creates and designs and codes and posts and links, and so the majority of what you're going to see here tonight is a direct reflection of his work. And I just would like to point out that there are other school divisions that contract this service out, and it costs tens of thousands, upwards of $100,000 to do what Mr. Shoa has done for the division as part of his daily work, including all of the other things that he does to support communications in the division. So as you all were having a riveting conversation with Mr. Landers, the server that is hosting our demo site went through an update that has impaired our ability to show you everything we would like to show you with the website. We do have some screenshots as backups. We're going to try and go through as much of the active site as we can, but just know that we might need to jump over to some screenshots to show you as part of the presentation. So the whole purpose of the website redesign is really twofold. The first is to address some accessibility issues related to the Americans with Disabilities Act and ensuring that every guest to our website can navigate and access the information with the use of an assistive technology known as a screen reader. The other purpose is to improve the end user experience for everyone. And as you all have shared with me, you've heard from constituents from time to time that our current website is not the easiest to navigate. And so we really did a deep dive into our data, what pages are being viewed, what pages and terms are being searched, and we developed a lot of the core elements of the website based on that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to the website guru, Ronnie Shoa.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Herron. I will go ahead, and it's an honor to be able to present the new website to you guys. So I'll go ahead on. So we see, just to give you an overall idea of what we see with the website, we're seeing an average monthly sessions of 224,000 users, 224,000 sessions monthly, and average of 777.5 thousand monthly users. So a session is considered a 30-minute span of visiting our site. So if you come to the site and you leave and come back within that 30 minutes, that's still your first session. So that equates to 2.5 million annual sessions on average and 874,000 annual users on average. If you look at the graph over on the right-hand side, that shows our sessions by device over the last 4 years. And as you can tell with the three colors, the blue being the desktop, the orange being tablet, and the green being mobile, we're seeing a slow decline in the amount of users that are actually coming to our site from a desktop or laptop machine, and mobile is slowly increasing. And that was expected, just with everyone getting smartphones and things like that. And we can expect that to continue moving forward. So some of the improvements that we made to the site are, as Ms. Cox mentioned, improved accessibility. That was one of the key things that we took a look at. The user experience design, looking at the end user and keeping them in mind. Mobile and tablet design, because we did just see how there's an increase in our mobile viewers. And then cross-reference information is kind of tied in with the mobile and tablet design. So rather than the user having to scroll back up to the navigation each time, we're trying to link more within the text. So if there's a policy that's referenced, we're linking to that policy rather than requiring the user to go back to the navigation and try to find that information. And then we're doing some major back-end updates to make things a little bit easier to find, easier to manage, and just have our media easier to manage. So before we jump into what the new site looks like, we're going to go back a couple years, and we're going to just take a look at some of the sites that we've had in the past. I was able to pull up from 2000, I believe, in one, so we'll just go ahead and start. I'm not going to bore you with going through each and every one. So the first one in 2001 was this. 2003. 2007, 2010, 2012 we switched to Edline, and that I wasn't able to pull a full screenshot because it was on their server, so that's now shut down. And then 2014 that was the biggest overhaul that we've had, the last big redesign that we had, and then we switched, and now we're in 2016. So this is what we currently have. It was minor updates from the 2014, although it looks a little different. And so then in 2019, I'm going to preface this with, I'm going to pull up the browser and hope that everything works. I won't be able to click anything, but I will be able to show you at least a live page since I was able to pull it up before the meeting started. So this will be the new site. And I'll go ahead and walk through as much as I can in the meantime. And so one of the main things that you're going to notice is the colors and the featured image on the homepage. So all the colors on the homepage and throughout all school division sites are ADA compliant. So we are required to meet a certain color contrast ratio. And so all those colors are tested to make sure that we are in compliance with that. Also, the slideshow is now has selectable text over here, and it's a larger image. And also the text to the right of the image is now translatable, whereas that wasn't the case before because we were embedding the text over each of the images.
One of the reasons that is important is that if you're using a screen reader, it just reads whatever's tagged with the image. So for example, if we didn't have readable text and the photo that was uploaded was just tagged as its name, then a screen reader might say, just identify it as img123.jpg. And so it doesn't tell the person what's included in that photo or what information we're trying to convey with that photo.
So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and you'll see this quick links icon bar, and it's notated in orange on your handouts in front of you. And so what this is we've pulled, based off our data that we've received over the last 6 years or so, what pages are being visited most frequently, and what pages are being searched most often. While not all of those are those items, we've left some places in for promotional purposes, such as back to school or the strategic plan. These items can change over the course of the year, so if we're becoming closer to graduation, then we can swap one of those out to graduation or summer school or any special event that we're having throughout the division. Go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. And so now we have some recent news and division events. So we have increased the amount of news that is now on the homepage, and also the division events on the right-hand side updates more frequently. So when we do make a change, it'll be reflected faster throughout the division rather than waiting a longer period of time. And then if we keep scrolling down, over at the bottom of the page, we've integrated the division-wide Instagram accounts. So we are pulling in feeds from every school, so you'll always see something different and something cool happening in all of our elementary, middle, and high schools as well. I'm going to go ahead and scroll back to the tab, and I'm going to try to see if this works. One of the biggest changes that we've made also, as we mentioned earlier, was with accessibility in mind. And so one of the big items in the navigation is when you can now tab through the navigation. So for users that are using screen readers or don't have the capabilities to operate a mouse or what have you, they can use their keyboard and just tab through the entire menu. Along the top bar right over here, you'll notice, and that's also highlighted as red on your handout, we have Select a School and we have an Employees tab. This bar along the top will be on all school pages as well. So now you can jump from one page to the next page, so you don't have to constantly go back to the division page in order to jump to another school page, which is really helpful for families that are moving here. If they want to just check out all of our schools, they don't have to constantly be going back to the division page. They can go from elementary to middle to high right from that school page.
I'm sorry, Ronnie, can you take me through what's going to be on every school page?
This blue bar all the way at the top where you see Select a School, Employees in the translation.
And then the social media stuff to the right.
And off to the right. And that social media will be for that school when we go to a school site. So, for instance, Jamestown will only have their Instagram and their Twitter at the top right.
Thanks.
So the next thing I'll go over is the main navigation. And this navigation bar was completely redesigned, and it now focuses on the end user. So whereas right now we have About WJCC on our page, we have departments, we have schools and programs, it doesn't really speak to the end user. So now we pulled some of that information that was under departments previously and put it under the end user, which is parents, students, community. So that's the biggest change, one of the biggest changes that we made to the navigation there. And now I'm not going to be able to click through, but I will go ahead and jump back to our PowerPoint and walk you through some of the other changes we've made. So our navigation, when you hover over the navigation, as you'll see in the screenshot on the right-hand side, we've broken down the About WJCC section in multiple sections within. So we have leadership, achievements, school data still there, and like I mentioned earlier, it is more user-focused. An orange button that you may have seen on the website when I was going over it is a quick link slider. So now that dot will be on every school page and in every division page. So if you ever have to go to a quick link, you simply just click on that button and it'll slide out from the right-hand side of the screen. You'll be able to select whatever you need without having to go back to the home page. The schools will be able to customize those also to whatever their most frequently needed resources, and that's where you'll also be able to find the Peach Jar link to view those flyers. One other big change that we've made is all of the third-party resources and links that take us off of the division page will now be notated with this icon that you see on the screen. When a user clicks on it, they'll have this notification in the screenshot, and it'll let the user know simply that you're about to leave a WJCC page. We are not responsible for the content or the accessibility of that content, and that we're providing it solely as a resource. We're not endorsing or promoting any private company or product. So, and if the user decides to continue, it'll open in a new tab, leaving our site open on the back end.
Since I'm over 50, I'll trust you that that's what that says.
So the cross-reference information that I mentioned earlier, this is one item that you'll see on the SHIP page, actually. And so what we've done is, being on the SHIP page, you may also be interested in the wellness policy or student meals or school nutrition resources. So that's a big enhancement, so the user doesn't have to go back to the navigation in order to find that information on a mobile device. Another huge change that we've made is we brought the program studies to the web rather than just a PDF. So the entire secondary catalog will be searchable, and they'll be cross-referenced. So the icons that you see, or the links that you see in that screenshot, when you click on one of those courses, it's going to take you to the job description, the course ID, the prerequisites, and all of that information. If a course has a prerequisite, it'll have that course listed there, and you can click on that course and go to that course. So you can almost backtrack to see what really is needed in order to plan out your year.
That's as cool as Who Knew It?
Ronnie knew it.
The next big item that we've done is we're putting all of our job descriptions online. And so not only are we doing that, but as positions become available, there'll be the option to add the link directly for the application. And you can also, this is also searchable, of course translatable, because now it's all text on our site. Same with the program of studies, it's all translatable. So that's a huge improvement to what we have currently. And also another big change that we've added was we've added the benefits that we offer in the school division. So now we have a page that has the high deductible, the 250 and the 500 plan all side by side. You can scroll through and really compare all three plans to make sure that you're picking the right one or what is best suited for you. This is also accessible, as we mentioned earlier, and we'll be adding all the benefits so that potential employees can see what we have, but also existing employees can find an easy place to see it. And that concludes my presentation.
So I'm disappointed that we're not able to walk you through the live site because it's even more dynamic and you can really see the ease of use. So what we'll do is, as we get closer to our anticipated launch in July, we'll send you all a link in the days right before that so that you can get a preview yourself and have an opportunity to look at that and then ask us any questions. Another important feature that is on the current site that's going to transfer to the new site is that we have a feedback survey that pops up anytime you visit our site and it asks you some simple questions. What brought you to the site? Were you able to find what you were looking for? Is there something, a suggestion that you have for improving the site? And how would you rate your overall experience? And so that goes to Goal 3 of the strategic plan about ensuring that we are meeting the needs of our community and our customers. And there's also an open-ended section on the Contact Us page that says, please give us your thoughts. Please let us know what you would like to see on the website. So while the launch is going to show a lot of change, it won't be the end of change because we're going to continually use that feedback and monitor the responses that we receive and make tweaks along the way. And we know that you will be very happy and eager to share with us your thoughts on the page as well, and we will include those adjustments as necessary.
That's very exciting. Comments?
Thank you. I have some questions, but.
Go ahead.
So how does the constant updating of the website work in the school system? Does each school have like a webmaster that is trained on?
Yes, so each school has a web editor that's responsible for updating that school's website.
Okay.
And posting items to their site.
Okay, and then I know because our university is going through the same ADA compliant necessity to do this. Could you share with everyone, like, I mean, for them, they're like, it is a legal thing, we have to do it, and if we're not, we're dinged, like, financially. So could you share that with?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the biggest things with accessibility recently, it's become a really big focus on a lot of not only school division pages, but also government and all pages really. And so the school division is required, there's a web governance general guidelines that you go by, and the school division is required to meet a level 2A. and which means it has to meet certain color ratios. It has to allow you to use your keyboard. It needs to really make it accessible for anybody, regardless of what their impairment may be.
So was this another unfunded mandate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's great, but I just want to put that out there. It's another thing.
And also, closed captioning is another key item, which is why we make sure that everyone speaks in their mics. So that's also something that has happened, because when we do embed our board meetings on the site, since that's on the site, that's something that we are posting, and we're required to make sure that they have closed captionings.
There was a question about the role of the person at the school, and I know Ms. Cox is planning a slight change in the stipend that we currently offer for that and some associated training. Do you want to speak to that, Ms. Cox?
Yes, ma'am. So as part of the salary book that you all approved this evening, there's a change to the web editor position, stipend position, to a digital communications liaison. And this person will be responsible for updating the website, but also with posting things to the school's social media channels. And so to assist with that, Ronnie and the communications team are going to provide some training over the summer on best practices, on ways that we've streamlined the web page to improve the uploading and the maintenance of individual school sites. So while we're adding the social media, we're taking away some of the burden of previously required processes for the website.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly?
I'm kind of looking forward to my Alexa app for the school lunches, but those school-based website folks, have they been involved in what you're doing here and understand the?
Over the last few, I guess, months, years, they've put in some requests on this would be great if we can do this or have, and so I've taken that feedback and applied it in this update.
I think it looks great, so I appreciate your work there. Thank you.
Additional comments?
Well, I might be able to figure it out now. That's going to be pretty awesome.
Okay. Yeah, it's very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 11, board matter, board members' comments. Starting with Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to thank all the people who came out to speak tonight, particularly the student, Mr. Garcia Hart. When we hear from students, it's particularly helpful. And then also Ms. Hunley, thank you very much for your service to the Education Association, and you've been a wonderful advocate for your profession, and so thank you for doing that. I wanted to say that Dr. Beers and Ms. Ownby and I attended the NAACP annual banquet this weekend, and it was a lovely affair. And also wanted to note that Mr. Eisenhower and I toured the Hive at Blayton Elementary and had a nice tour. So anyway, I just wanted to let everyone know that. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Beers?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I am going to be the guinea pig tomorrow at the Heretta meeting, WHRO. The WHRO through the Williamsburg Health Foundation has provided funds for a remarkable video program, VR 360 Decisions. And I will be at that meeting as the chair of Heretta, trying on I think I pronounced this correctly, my tech guys could probably help me out with this, but the Oculus glasses, did I say that right? I have to go down an hour ahead of time, so I don't fall on my face, because apparently things are so real, it's better to sit down when you go through that. So anyway, kudos to the Williamsburg Health Foundation for providing those funds. I also want to give thanks to Kim Hunley, for your really bi-monthly words of encouragement, support, and I certainly don't want to not be able to hear those words in the future. So please keep reminding us of the things that are really important for us. So thank you. And one other thought is that Williamsburg has one, and we will have two trailers. York County has, 9, 10, or 11. I can't remember exactly how many. But if parents are concerned about the weather or about the safety of children in those trailers, I would highly recommend that they Google an article that was published by WA Daily, February 25, 2019, and our communication director actually was quoted as well in that article, and it's very enlightening because it's very clear that school systems take very seriously the impact of weather and other safety issues whenever trailers are used. And the public may not know all of what those are for obvious reasons. I almost hesitate to say anything more about that, but I urge you to take a look at that if you have concerns about that. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I could have sworn I heard a kindergarten class earlier tonight, but on an unrelated note, thank you, Ms. Hunley, for your advocacy of the teachers in our school system and for the little treats and reminders that you give us every week. As many meetings as I've come to here, I think you've come to just about every one of them, and it's always a pleasure to see you out there in the audience and to hear you advocate so well for your constituency. So I hope you won't be gone very long. So thank you. I had the privilege of attending the New Horizons signing ceremony with Dr. Herron last week, and it was really great to see the excitement generated and to see those kids moving on to the next, to being well trained and being selected. Several of them had several job offers from which they had to choose, and it was just it was great to see them moving on to their next phase in life and as they move on into their career. It is the end of May with Memorial Day approaching and graduation less than a month away. There's lots of end of the year functions to attend and a lot of ways to take pride in our school system and our students and what we've achieved and what we have achieved, what those kids have achieved, and it's always great to see. So every school has them, so look for them on their website, although it won't be the new one, but feel free to attend as many as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly. Ms. Young?
Yes, first of all, I want to say congratulations to the retirees. I was unable to attend, but it brought to mind, I was on an airplane sitting next to a couple who had attended 16 graduations from grandchildren. And having attended my own granddaughter, it reminds me that many people are retiring, but new people are coming up and are going on to school, and they will be there in the future. So I want to encourage people to continue looking for good opportunities for jobs. Just had my air conditioner repaired, $800. So if you want a really good job, look at HVAC. And so I think that's important, but I want to thank all of the wonderful volunteers that were here tonight. Always impressed with the amount of time that is donated to our schools by people who are willing to give it, but not only willing to give it, but are able to and do so for the benefit of our students.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Taylor?
Yes, I just want to say that I appreciate all the parents who came out to speak tonight regarding safety in our schools. I think there are additional safety conversations that we need to have, and solutions we need to look for, from mental health to additional physical measures. And I look forward to speaking about that with my colleagues and staff and the community. And I know it was handled very efficiently and quickly. Thankfully, our administrators took the reins on that. And I applaud the leadership and courage of the student who was able to report this to administration. And again, I look forward to speaking about that more. But on a happier note, I wanted to say congratulations to all our volunteers who were recognized tonight. They provide so much support to our schools, and we couldn't do it without them. I was also able to attend the retirement ceremony last week, and it's always amazing to hear about all the accomplishments of our employees. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Hummel?
I'll just keep it real short, since I echo what all of my fellow board members have said about appreciating the volunteers and the speakers that came out tonight, and just my heart has gone out to War Hill for the past month, and without getting too emotional, it's just very difficult to imagine what all these kids are going through. So I also would like us to see whatever we can do, whether it's physical or, I kind of have to say I agree with the parent about metal detectors. I also hate the idea of metal detectors. But if this is where we are today and we need to look at it, then I think we should be open to whatever security measures we need to look at. So I also want to say it has been one of my biggest pleasures is getting to know Mrs. Hunley. She represents the magic that is in our school every day. All of the teachers do amazing things. The volunteers, the administrators, there's just a million little miracles that are going on in our school system every day, and I don't want to lose sight of that when some of the tragedies happen as well. So, thank you, Ms. Hunley.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. When it gets to the end, all I really can say is I echo what my board colleagues have said, but do just want to say, Ms. Hunley, very big shoes to fill. Just very big shoes. And thank you for all that you've done. And just wanted to note an interesting nugget that I remember from the pinning ceremony was, I think collectively our retirees represented 746 years of experience. And so that's phenomenal. And it is an exciting time of the year where it seems like multiple times each week there's pinning ceremonies and induction ceremonies and choral ceremonies, choral concerts and band concerts, and so it's a very exciting time, and families are kind of running here and there, and if they have more than one child, they're running multiple places on the same night to watch year-end activities. And so to all of our families, breathe, because it's almost to the end, and I know teachers are tired and students are tired, and we're into testing fatigue, and we're coming down the hill to graduation and the end of the school year. So, moving on to upcoming events. We have the Student Advisory Committee is meeting on May 22nd at 3 p.m. in the Media Center at Lafayette. The GED Stepping Up ceremony, which I regretfully will not be able to attend because I'll be attending another event at Lafayette, is on June 5th. At 6 p.m. at Jamestown High School. The Policy Committee is meeting June 12th at 8 a.m. in room 309 in the annex. And then the graduation ceremonies are June 15th all day long at the Kaplan Arena at William & Mary. And then upcoming meetings, we have closed session on June 4th in room 309, starting at 5:15, followed by a work session at 6:30 in room 300, and then a closed session on June 18th here in Stryker, starting at 5, followed by a regular meeting at 6:30.
Madam Chair, I think the Policy Committee is on the 11th at 8 a.m.
Okay.
September. Okay, sorry.
You in the right month?
I have policy is June 12th.
June 11th.
I have June 11th at 8, yeah.
We have another meeting.
We'll figure that out. We'll work on that. Unless there are additional comments, feedback, we'll figure out the policy. With that, this meeting is adjourned.